Harry's Wife, Part 101.10, Early Flex by Charles. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There will be, over the coming days, as there has been in the days prior to this video, repeated instances of when narcissists collide, with King Charles on the one hand and, of course, Harry's wife on the other. It's a useful dynamic for you to understand, both in terms of understanding more about them, but also the interaction that occurs. Going back a few days, we see an early flex from Charles as he asserts control over Harry's wife, arising from an article first covered in the Mirror, which states, Harry told by Charles, Harry's wife not welcome at Balmoral to see dying Queen. The Duke of Sussex repeatedly received a call from Charles, telling him to come to Balmoral to see the Queen in her final hours, but he was told that Harry's wife would not be welcome. Harry was the last to arrive at Balmoral Castle on Thursday, and the first to depart on Friday. In happier times, Harry and his grandmother enjoyed a close, playful rapport, glimpsed by the wider public in 2016 when they appeared together in a comic video, reacting to a mic drop taunt from Barack and Michelle Obama ahead of the Invictus Games, a competition for disabled veterans which Harry has promoted. But it was pure coincidence that Harry was in Britain when Elizabeth died, and prior to her demise, there were no plans announced for him to see his family during his visit from the United States, where he lives with his family. Only Charles and Anne were able to see the Queen before she died, as they were already in Scotland with her health deteriorating. Harry is believed to have been at Frogmore Cottage when he received the call from Charles to come to Balmoral with the Queen dying, but not to bring Harry's wife. Charles told Harry that it wasn't right or appropriate for Harry's wife to be in Balmoral at such a deeply sad time, said a Sun source. It was pointed out to him that Kate was not going, and that the numbers really should be limited to the very closest family. Charles made it very, very clear Harry's wife would not be welcome. Here, of course, this is an assertion of control by Charles over Harry's wife, who is a non-intimate secondary source in his fuel matrix. He, of course, is utilising the truth. It wasn't appropriate for her to attend on two bases. Firstly, she wasn't the very closest family, but moreover, of course, her behaviour in the last 2 years towards the royal family and the Queen was not such that she should be allowed to be near the monarch when she was on her deathbed. You can well imagine that as Her Majesty was there breathing her last, she may well have said, Yes, you can allow Ginger Bollocks in, but that American troublemaker, not a fucking chance. Off with her head. And wouldn't want to see her. And, of course, other members of the family would not want to cause any distress for the monarch by having Harry's wife attend. Accordingly, remember that all of the actions of a narcissist, when involved in relation to other people, are guided by that narcissism. There is no suspension of it. There's no part-time narcissism. And I know there are a number of you that still continue to look at instances through your own world lens, rather, which is understandable but is a mistake, rather than looking at it through the lens of the narcissist, and understand that even where it might appear to accord with your view, namely, it isn't appropriate for her to be there, it's closest family, and she's been a royal pain in the arse, or less than royal pain in the arse, so why should she be there? Remember that a narcissist can commandeer those circumstances, and invariably does, because it creates legitimacy and plausibility in order to assert control over somebody else. Harry's wife comes up on Charles's radar. The narcissism asks, is she under control? Well, she poses a threat to control as a consequence of the fact that she's a thorn in the side of the royal family. And therefore, the narcissism dictates, prevent her from coming, assert control over her, nullify the threat to control that she poses. And the narcissism suggests, use the fact that she's not a close family relative as the reason. And also, of course, bear in mind that her behaviour is such that it's inappropriate. Therefore, the narcissism commandeers that. This failure, of course, to allow her to attend was something that Harry had to accept. Undoubtedly, he will have faced a backlash from Harry's wife when he had to turn to her and say, "I can go, but you can't." That wouldn't compute with her. Her narcissism would not allow her to accept, yes, I've been a complete shitbag these last couple of years, and therefore I'm not close family either, so yes, I suppose it's right that I stay. She will have protested. She will have said, this is typical, always being excluded, they never wanted me to be included. Of course, whinging and doling out a pity play and talking about herself, even at a moment whereby Harry is facing the loss of his grandmother. She has no emotional empathy for her husband. She doesn't care about how her whinging and ill-gauged comments affect him. All she's concerned about, driven by her own narcissism, of course, is to nullify the threat to control posed by Charles's assertion of control over her. As a consequence of him asserting control by saying, "You're not allowed," and directing that through Harry, she faced a double snub. Not only has she been told she's not allowed to go to Balmoral, but she doesn't even get the message direct. It comes through a messenger, her husband. Both of these instances will have in fact wounded her. And then when she's told by Harry, that's challenge fuel because he's conveying an emotional response to her. But the knowledge that she was not to be invited would wound her, and the fact that it wasn't provided through by Charles direct would wound her. And then, when the information is conveyed by Harry to her, that is challenge fuel. Her narcissism has to reject that. It won't accept that she is not allowed to be invited. It's not fair, it's cruel, it's racist of them, whatever her narcissism selects. And therefore she complains to Harry. She doesn't get on the phone to Charles. Her narcissism won't direct her to do that. She won't decide just to head up there anyway and pop up and sit by the Queen, although there'll be some narcissists that would do that. You'll be familiar with them. The self-inviters, the ones that turn up when they're told not invited or even positively told that they shouldn't attend. They don't recognise the boundary. They operate with that sense of entitlement. They have no accountability for their behaviour. Harry's wife's narcissism wouldn't take her down that route. Instead, what it would do is it would cause her to assert control indirectly by complaining to other people. It, of course, would make her feel vulnerable. It would impact upon her. Her narcissism would cause her to feel indignant, upset as a consequence of this double snub. But the fact is, this was Charles engaging in an early flex against her. The Mail also covered it by stating, Charles told Prince Harry not to bring Harry's wife to Balmoral to see dying Queen. Inside the half-hour of frantic discussions triggered when incredulous aides heard via media that Sussexes were both coming, before clarification Duke would travel alone. King Charles told Prince Harry not to bring Harry's wife, to Balmoral Castle as he and other senior royals rushed to the bedside of the dying Queen, it was reported. Amid the personal family tragedy on Thursday, when the Queen died at the age of 96, a small domestic drama was playing out involving the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It was a fortunate coincidence of sorts, writes Jonathan Rose, that Harry and Harry's wife were in the country when the prince's grandmother passed away, sparing him an emotional and undoubtedly traumatic transatlantic dash as the Queen's health failed. Despite the rancour of the past few years, no one would begrudge him the chance to mourn his beloved granny, with whom he's always enjoyed a warm and fun-loving relationship. But as the royal households were consumed in concern for the ailing monarch, the Sussexes prompted an unprecedented flurry behind the scenes by announcing that Harry and Harry's wife would be travelling both to Balmoral, a sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. According to The Sun, Prince Harry was at Frogmore Cottage when he received a call from his father asking him not to bring Harry's wife. Charles told Harry that it wasn't right or appropriate for Harry's wife to be in Balmoral at such a deeply sad time, a source told the newspaper. Meanwhile, the Telegraph reported that Harry was not initially summoned when senior royals made their way up to Balmoral, like brother Prince William was, due to constitutional reasons. A royal insider also said that it's quite hard to spend too much time with someone you know is about to publish a tell-all book about you. Another added, I think the general reaction to Harry and Harry's wife's behaviour has been one of incredulity, to be honest. And therefore, The fact is that they were intending to go and then were told that they ought not to attend, and that was made as a consequence of the utilisation of truth by Charles, asserting control over both his son, by issuing a diktat and allowing him to come, and also by proxy over Harry's wife, who of course will have been hard hit by this snub. It will have wounded her and then presented as challenge fuel. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.